Long intro, folks. It's 2 p.m. Pacific. Got it right that time. I'm Fred McMurray, as my co host chuckles in the background. I'm Fred McMurray, which means this must be.
Pillars, pillars, pillars of franchising. Pillars, pillars, pillars of franchising.
Sorry for the long intro, folks. We got a lot of guests today, so it's a really big show, isn't it, Ray?
Yes, it is.
And do you want to announce our topic, or are you gonna be terse and reticent today?
I'm gonna sit back and enjoy. So yeah, well, women in franchising, I think, is the topic and it is a fantastic topic. That's why I get to sit back and just smile.
Always like a man go. I'll sit back.
So you want to begin with the weather, or do you want to
Well,
skip weather today?
no, I do want to do weather. I just want to note that our female business warrior co-host Kristin is out today with COVID-19, and we want to send our thoughts and prayers to her. And she, her husband, and their one son. So um, hurry up back. We miss you. You provide balance to Ray, and I get to hide off
Yeah.
screen then. So as everyone who knows who's ever watched this show, we've got our four favorite female co hosts on today, and we're talking about how they've given back to the community because, of course, that's one of the primary pillars. So we also wanted to spotlight and say thank you for giving back to the community for them. And so after you tell me where you are and what the weather's like, and before we start asking our co host guest, you get to put in how you give back to the community, but you got to make it really, really short because they're the show. Fair
Okay.
enough?
All right. You're talking to me.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
talking to
Okay.
you. This is the last
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
we'll
All
probably
right.
directly talk with each other today. So we're turning it over. So I
Uh,
am in
I am. I'm at home in Aurora, and it's just went down a tenth of a degree, but it's 55.9. To me, that's wonderful. It's perfect, and the sun is shining. A little breezy, but other than that, giving back to the community. One of the things that when Martha and I decided to open the franchise is we were looking for a franchise that had a benevolent association, and that happened to be the Miss Molly Foundation. And the Miss Molly Foundation in my town is connected with Mutual Ground, and Mutual Ground is they help people who are having problems with domestic violence. And we have given a substantial amount to Mutual Ground every year through the Miss Molly Foundation, and I'm very proud of that. I think it's something that everybody in business, not just franchising, but everybody in business needs to give back to the community. It's extremely important.
Okay, so now we're going to go alphabetical because that seems to be the easiest way, and no one's annoyed at me any more than they normally are. So, Andrea, where are you, and what's the weather like?
Well, I'm way up north in Vancouver, Canada, but it's not all that cold here today. In Canadian, it's about 12 degrees Celsius. So I guess that's about 54, 55, not far off from where you are in Aurora.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's nice, a little bit sunny, a little bit cloudy, not raining. So that makes me happy.
Carolyn?
Yes, so I'm Carolyn. I'm here in North Carolina, and we have a beautiful day, like typically this time of the year in North Carolina. It's about 77 degrees, and the sun is shining, just perfect weather.
Elizabeth, as Fred goes off screen to try to answer one of our viewers already. So Move it along, folks. You're all co-hosts. You know when
Moving
you gotta,
along. Yeah, I'm
you know when you
Elizabeth.
gotta
I'm
bail me out.
Yeah, I'm in the Gulf Coast of Alabama. We are at 82. We don't have a typical temperature of the year. It can go from 50 to 100 in October. Tomorrow our high is 73. I'm so excited about that. So
Yeah.
we're getting to a fall temperature soon, I think. Michele, what about you?
I'm Michele Rempel, and I'm on the central coast of California. It's pretty hot, actually. You know, it's a really weird weather here. Just as other parts of the country are starting to cool down, we often in October will have our hottest weather, and we're in that right now. We've been in the upper 90s, and it's super dry and it's just hot for us. And because we don't have any air conditioning here, which I know, we don't need it usually. But when it is really hot, we're kind of miserable. So because nobody's got AC.
Wow.
That's when you go to the movies.
But not so much due to COVID.
Not too much right now, yeah. Bad idea.
So, Ray, you want to ask the first question?
Sure. I don't know how to pose this. Should I pose this to the group and see who wants to answer first? But I think since the topic is giving back to the community, who wants to answer that question first, and how are you doing it? We can start with Andrea in alphabetical order if you want.
All right, sure, I'll take that. Well, when my dad passed away about 7 or 8 years ago, he was just one of those people that just gave without expectation. And I think at one time I was on the show and we talked a little bit about core values, and that is now one of my values, because I really wanted to make sure that my kids understood that part of my dad, because they really didn't get much time with him, and my youngest, of course, never met him. And when my dad when his funeral happened, there were a number of people that came forward to speak about their life experience with him, people that knew him well before I did, or that obviously I had never met. And there were just so many stories of him doing things that were really probably to him maybe not big things, but to these people they were super meaningful. And he was a teacher, and he had a tendency to gravitate toward kids that nobody really had in the past believed in. And I think that was what changed their lives, is that they had just that one person that believed in them, and that changed their lives. And these are stories of kids who, grew up with, pretty difficult life situations, who went on to become doctors and lawyers and teachers, and spoke about this one experience. And I think sometimes it can become very overwhelming to think about how to give back. And we rack our brains thinking about how to do things in a meaningful way. And there are big things that can be done. And I think I'm on a board of an organization that I'm very proud of called Coast Mental Health. And we provide housing for people with mental illness. And that's a more structured way to give back. But I think it's actually really very simple. And it's the little acts of giving that generally are what are the most impactful in life. And I will share a story that I think I hope will stick with me and my kids for a long time. When I divorced, I lived in an area in town, a nice part of town, but somewhat transitional. And it's quite dense with the homeless community and a lot of mental health. A lot of people suffering from mental health conditions that are not properly medicated or treated. And I one day just sat down and had a conversation with a man who was just sitting on the street crying. And I just asked him, to talk, and we talked, and I just heard about his life story. And I just couldn't believe how many roadblocks he had had to experience in his life. And I just said to him, what you've endured in your life is so incredible that most people wouldn't make it past even any of those one things. And yet you have gotten past each of these things. And I just looked at him, and I truly meant it. Like, I really believed in him that he was going to get himself out, and he was actually applying for a job the next day. And I never saw him again in that area. So I really hope he did move on to, a better life. But I think my point is just that it doesn't have to be a really big thing. I think sometimes it's just a matter of allowing someone to be heard, or, saying hello to someone that maybe most people would walk by. These are just little things that I think are really meaningful, and are our own way of giving back. Even though they might not seem that way, they actually mean a lot to a lot of people.
At least it brightens their day. Who's next? Ray, take over again. Sorry, we've been having some issues on YouTube, and people aren't
Okay.
able to watch the YouTube channel
Carol?
from the website. So go ahead, take
I
over,
think
dude.
I'm up next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So with Wisdom, we are a emerging franchisor, and so as we're bringing people together, it's amazing. People, we've been talking about this a tremendous amount, and how as a collective team, what can we do to really impact first our local community. And so one of the things we first started doing was we believe education just empowers people, right? So educating caregivers. And when I speak about caregivers, I'm not speaking about paid caregivers, but I'm speaking about caregivers that are finding themselves taking care of their loved ones, whether it be a spouse or a sibling. Somewhere they're finding themselves in this situation, and they're just so overwhelmed. They don't even know where to go. And so one of the first things we as a group or as a brand started to do was we put on a event that was free to the public, right? And everyone could come, and we had different experts lined up that could speak on all different topics dealing with caring for a loved one. What kind of resources are out there? And as Andrea spoke about the mental health, it's a big part of depression. And what was nice was they were able to come together and be able to socialize and speak to other people who could relate with what they were going through. And the event went so very well. They were like, hey, when are you going to do another one, right? And so, of course, that's still on our calendar to do. But we also, part of education as a group, there's a local organization called Transitions Guiding Light. They do the same thing where they're reaching out to all different type caregivers, giving them resources. And so we help to sponsor. And like this year, they're having their first virtual because of COVID. So we help to sponsor this event so no one has to pay for it. They can all be part of this. And so we're just looking at those various ways of how we can give back first to our local community, and then let it grow from there. So as a brand, because we're still growing, we're still trying to just see what the larger picture will be. But like Andrea said, we're starting small in our local area. And one thing about our caregivers, we are looking at them too, because they're so a big part of what we do. We have scholarship programs that we can help send them to a nurse aid program so that they can better themselves as well. So we have different criteria that they can do. So that's some of the ways that Wisdom looks at being able to give back to our community.
Well, I do want to mention something that Andrea said that I have mentioned in the show before regarding teachers. And that is that I did have a 5th grade teacher, and I'll mention her name because I remember her very, very well. Olive Barnes. She recognized abilities in me that no one else could. Mm-hmm. And she was my 5th grade teacher. My 4th grade teacher saw the opposite. My 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Barnes, saw those abilities and recognized them and brought them out, how should I say, made me flourish. and as opposed to that. So teachers are extremely important, and they need to be recognized, especially the good ones. So Elizabeth, how about you?
Wait. Now, if you're gonna go there, I get to tell at least one teacher story. Given that
Okay.
I married one, I raised one, and still do tech support for, and I don't know, they're all over the place. But I got the teacher. It was a seventh and eighth grade social studies teacher, that I honestly credit with making me the inquisitive question asking, blunt, choose your expletive, as people are person that I am. And I got the honor a couple of years back of actually going to lunch with him. He bought me lunch and a beer, and it was the coolest thing sitting there with my seventh and eighth grade teacher. Sadly, the woman who helped me create this, my last piece of art ever done, has passed away.
Oh, that's cute.
Ms. Catherine Phillips. If it weren't for her, this never would have gotten me the C- I got in art. And who knew it'd become so useful many, many years later. So now we can go on to Elizabeth.
Okay.
Just don't know how I can follow that, Fred. Well, I think giving back is an interesting thing, and I think it comes in seasons of life. And for years I volunteered just doing whatever my kids were doing. I was sat on a lacrosse board, I band stuff, all that. But now that they're older, I'm finding that I can do the things that I have more passion for. I only loved lacrosse because my kid did it. I didn't actually love it. So I have found myself in an interesting place in a couple of areas. I had my son came out when he was 16. And so I have found myself speaking up in Lower Alabama, which is not a warm and happy place if you are in the LGBTQ community. So I volunteer with groups on that. And I've done some writing to try and support, so I have some social activism going on. But the other thing that has happened is that I volunteer with this pageant, which has not been something I have ever done in my life. I've never done a pageant, didn't care to do a pageant in particular, but I found myself in this group of women who want to mentor these young women in our area. They teach them interview. It's less about the pageant, more about the experience. So we mentor young girls to be able to speak in public, to be able to do interviews, to know how to present themselves in professional situations and in formal situations. And it's been something that I have found surprisingly rewarding. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I have. I started writing a script because I was doing it as a business favor. And it has ended up watching some of these young women. They're 10th and 11th graders, and they can come back the next year if they don't make it. So to watch them evolve and learn to speak, there was one little girl who came in and she was the most uncomfortable, pulling her shirt down, pulling it up, just did not want to be seen. And I thought, that poor girl, if she just survives the process, it's going to be an accomplishment. And she ended up winning. And you would not have recognized the growth in her ability to speak and her ability to present herself. She stopped fidgeting and pulling her shirt all over the place. It was an amazing transformation. So I really enjoy, especially young Southern women who are often taught not to speak for themselves quite as much. It's fun for me to give them permission to find a voice and use it and use their power in a good way. They do a lot of volunteer work and that kind of thing. So that's been something I've been involved in for about 6 years now, I guess, which was a surprise. I did not expect. I was just doing it for no other reason than somebody asked me to. So I think it's kind of fun when you fall into those things. And the LGBT stuff is very personal to me and my family, and making sure that we're trying to get a program where we can find temporary housing for kids, people who want to volunteer. We have a lot of kids down here who couch surf because their parents kick them out. So finding host families, that's something that my husband and I are looking at doing as our kids, are aging out of our home. So those are my two big things.
Can we get them to subscribe to the New Pillars of Franchising YouTube channel? Never mind.
I'll send it out. You can have the whole LGBTQ audience of Alabama.
We'll get them enrolled in something that maybe next week we'll tell everyone about. Eh, Ray? Michele!
Yeah, I love the quote. I'm not going to say it exactly right, but it's just kind of always try to do the next right thing. I've heard that, and it's just kind of resonates. You know, Andrea was talking about sometimes just a small thing of having a conversation with someone and just being led to do that next right thing in that moment. But for me, I give back in a couple of different ways. One is I've been involved for many years in a group called Celebrate Recovery, which is a faith-based recovery group, but it's not people who participate. Yes, there are some people who have drug and alcohol problems, but it's really for any kind of hurt, hang up, or habit that people have as a result of what's going on, what has been going on in their lives, and just, you know, the trials of daily living. So it can be anything from just overcoming, you know, an eating issue, or overcoming being codependent because you know you had a really rough upbringing, and so you've kind of learned how to be codependent. So it just really addresses all those different issues that people can work through. And the other thing is Compassion International, which, you know, helps children all over the world, and also the local food bank, you know, especially right now, at a local level with the food bank, but also on a national level with Feeding America. It's a lot of, I mean, I'm not, you know, saying anything surprising, but there's just so much suffering right now, and just trying to, you know, help out in small ways to, I feel so grateful that, you know, we have income coming in, and there's so many that are just wondering how they're going to pay their rent. So this is a great topic. It's a timely topic for sure.
On that note, we'll go, and it's time to try to pay the bills. So therefore, we want to give hopefully a shout out to our friends at Feed Spot. Why, Ray? Why do we like to recognize our friends at Feed Spot?
Because they recognized us as number one
in the top 20 podcasts on franchising that you need to follow in 2020. And a thank you to our co-host for having us get there. Clap, Ray. Yeah, sometimes he's a bit slow, but you know, all right.
And when we get back from the commercial, I'd like to talk a little bit about the month of October.
All right, I'll give you 90 seconds.
Hey,
Now,
franchise owners,
or you
how's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvyne, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvyne.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvyne with a Y.com.
And we're back, Ray. So go ahead. I'll give you 90 seconds.
Well, I don't think I need 90 seconds, but October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And the thing about domestic violence is that nobody wants to talk about it. And yet, one of the things that police hate getting is a domestic violence call, simply because they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. You know, even though the guy is beating up on his wife, the wife's going to protect him no matter what. And, you know, it's a terrible situation. And we need to recognize that. And we need to do something about it. And one of the things about mutual ground is it's not just about protecting the people. It's about having classes on how to overcome these problems. And it's extremely important that, like I say, it is recognized. Everybody knows someone who has suffered from domestic violence, and it's just not women. 20% of the people who suffer from domestic violence are male. So, you know, I just wanted to bring it out because it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and if possible, give to the local safe house, and we can go from there.
It's a
that 90 seconds.
Yeah, you're okay. It's a horrible topic to talk about. It's a horrible topic that hits way too close to home, and so in a small way to deal with it. And given that someday my spot here will be handled by one of my grandkids, probably my granddaughter, because man, she's got camera presence. So we'll go with Addison. So, what would you tell my granddaughter Addison on how to change things as she grows up? How would you tell her to give back to the community?
For me, are you talking? Is this an open question?
Well, I like to go around with the alphabet because my kid actually, and it's really good for my granddaughter to understand the alphabet. So I like to go around the alphabet, but so that puts Andrea on the hot spot. But remember, she's
go ahead,
3,
Andrea.
and it helps if you make wild gestures and talk about bad monkeys, but you don't got to.
Okay, so you want me to talk with my hands? Okay. I would tell your granddaughter not to overthink giving back. If something feels right, then participate. I think sometimes there's too much thinking in what we spend our time volunteering for. And sometimes we feel overwhelmed with time commitments. And I don't know that, we have to look at it quite that way. I have chosen to participate in a number of different organizations, whether it be through, my business or just in terms of my own personal choices. And I have really varying aspects of involvement. On some of the ways that I give back, I'm involved at the board level where I feel I can drive a little bit more of the strategy. In others, I will just volunteer to speak and maybe, share a story and, do something that way. And in other organizations where maybe I don't have the time commitment, I might participate with a donation or some other way of, supporting them. But I think that I just witnessed a lot of my peers overthinking some of the ways to give back. And even at the store level, we have retail locations and we have a product to sell and we have a service to give with facials. And so we're asked so many times for donations to events. And, most of the time we do say yes, in particular, if it's something that one of our customers is asking for, because we do really want to support our customers because they're supporting us. And the way that we look at that is, one, they're supporting us, we want to support them. But it's also, a great opportunity to be involved in the community that's where we do business. And so, we tend to say yes more than we say no. And I think sometimes we have a tendency as humans to say no first. And I often would, love to hear more people say yes first. And then if something becomes too much, then say, okay, I've overextended. But at the very least, let's start with saying yes. And I think that, if we did more of that, I think we would probably see a lot of improvement in some of the ways that, we are involving ourselves in our communities.
Carolyn, and you really got the hat jacket on far better than I do, man. And it's I'm sweating like a pig.
Yeah, so I would tell your granddaughter to not be afraid to be who she is and really be in tune to her own natural instincts. And if she figure out, is this something nationally that everyone's doing? But if she really knows who she is, and it could be her life just as a mission to give back every day, right? Because every day we have an opportunity and it may seem very small and nobody else knows about it, but maybe you and the person that you gave back to. So that's the advice that I would give.
Yeah, so I've had several of those incidents in my life, and I can't tell you about them, but they just resonate off the soul. Elizabeth, now you can jump in.
Well, I think one of my favorite quotes is that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. So I think that if you can live by that, when you see something that moves you or you think is wrong to do something or say something, that's one of the most important things you can do. And on the podcast that I do with Rebecca, we try to find the places in people's lives where passion and purpose collide. So if you can find passion and purpose in the same space and use that not only for what your work is, but for how you give back, I think you're going to find a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction in doing that. And you're not going to get that sort of activism fatigue that you can often get when you're overextended, like Andrea said.
And when does that air? When do you broadcast?
Every day at 4.
Michele.
Wow, passion and purpose colliding every day. That takes a lot, man. That's great. I was meeting with a potential client this morning, and he said, I love this. He said, I'd rather be sworn by than sworn at. And I just love that quote, and I think it's perfect it's a good code for life, right? You can be somebody that you can be sworn by, that people know they can depend on you and your word, than being sworn at or being mentioned in a way that makes others understand that you're not trustworthy and not a caring person. So I would tell her that's a good motto to live by. Be true to your word as much as possible. I mean, we all make mistakes, but if that's your intention, that's a huge thing in helping change our world. And if we could all live that way, we would have fewer hurting people for sure.
I like that, but then she's going to question why Grandpa gets sworn at by her mom. Ray, you got one question to ask our guest, and then we're going to go into a commercial.
Okay. And
you know what happens
like all
after
the guests
the question.
To answer this, did you experience gender prejudice? If so, what form did it take, and how did you overcome it? And we'll go back in alphabetical order, starting with Andrea.
Without a doubt, I think there's, but I say that because I don't think that in most cases it comes with ill intent. I think it's typically, we are a product of our environments, and we're a product of a lot of role modeling that we see in terms of positions that men and women tend to be in. And that's what we grow up with. And so I don't think that I'm saying this with any level of frustration or anger. It's just the way it is. And so to answer your question, for me, I have a business partner who's male. And so often in meetings generally I would see this in bank meetings or investment banker meetings, whereby certain questions would be presented to him and certain ones to me. But that really would just be the case once or twice. And then when it's made obvious that I can't answer the questions that maybe they didn't expect, then that shifts a little bit. But I think that what I do now is very different than what I would have done in the past. In the past, I would have been somewhat annoyed by it, and I would create an entire story in my mind about the meaning behind it. Now I just observe it and I move on. And I recognize that there's just more work to be done to make sure that women are in a lot of different positions so that this kind of diminishes over time and there's more equity in terms of how we view specific roles. But the thing is, I think that where we can make change is actually by aligning ourselves with our male colleagues. And so I had a situation once where I spoke at an event, and there was a gentleman or a male who asked a few questions after I spoke, and I answered them. And then there was a sort of cocktail event after, and I was standing in a group with mostly men, and he came up and said, "Oh, you were the one that was speaking today that I asked some questions to." I said, "Yeah, I was." It was, "Thank you for asking your questions." And then he looked at the other guys and he said, "Well, I don't know if I really was asking questions or if I really liked what you said. I just really liked looking at you." And, in his mind, he might have meant it as a compliment, but it wasn't really appropriate in a professional setting. And what I realized was it wouldn't have been impactful for me to have said something. And this was a few years ago, and so it may be different today. But what would have been impactful would have been if one of the people that were, a male had said to him, "Hey, that's a little offside."
Yeah.
He would have responded differently. And so what I'm saying is that I think that we need to work together when we recognize that something might not be acceptable, even if it's not said with ill intent, to just have a conversation about it. And it doesn't have to be negative or antagonistic. It can just be matter of fact. "Hey, I don't think we need to talk like that anymore," and then move on. Yeah, but for the most part, I mean, I'm really fortunate with my business partners with Franworth. I will say that what I am, it's happened by happenstance. I would say that all of the, brand founders and CEOs of the brands, we're all female. And, I think that most, if not at least half of the VP level employees at Franworth are female. So there is a lot of, gender equity within the Franworth organization that I recognized right away and I was very attracted to. And, it is definitely a different type of company. And it's just a matter of this is the way it is because everyone has something to contribute. And it's so wonderful to work in an environment like that and have partners that are, aligned in that way. But it's definitely, there's no strategy in terms of, I've talked to John Rotche about it, he probably wouldn't want to say, "Oh, well, we picked female founders." That's not what happened. They picked brands that happen to have female founders. And it's, it's really, I just love that that's sort of happened by happenstance, because that to me is where we see that meaningful change coming to fruition.
Sounds like he's a smart guy who kept his mouth shut at the right time. And more importantly, back to Michele's old point, he's sworn by instead of at. Ooh, did you like the way I did that? Ooh, see, I am paying attention. Go ahead, Carolyn. Also got to inject some levity, folks. This is Pillars, after all.
Yeah, so I think with me, sometimes I have this, I don't know, my husband describes it as a naivety or something, sometimes you act like you're not aware of, but some things are made pretty obvious to you. My husband and I work very closely together. So therefore, when we go to any type meetings, people automatically assume that he is the franchisor, right? But my husband is so supportive. He always turns it back around and he says, and Fred can attest to this, but it's just an automatic. I'm just standing there and people automatically go that route. as we were starting the franchise system, we happened to partner with some other people on our executive team, which are all males as well. But it was really neat because everyone that's part of that team is really about seeing they don't have a problem with woman leadership. And I think that it takes a very strong man to be able to do that, you know, so with my husband and with the current team that I do have. But, you know, as we go into various meetings, I do sense that just because people will automatically look at whoever the male is there at that time. And I don't get mad about it or retaliate about it, you know. I just don't handle it that way, you know, but they kind of feel, and sometimes they'll say, oh, okay, great. And then they'll just still talk to them. So that's perfectly still okay. You just can't change people's concept of where they are right now at this point. But I do agree that the environment is changing, and you are finding that we do have more women that are in leadership. It doesn't mean we have to change who we are, because I'm very, you know how you have some women that are just more, I don't want to say more feminine, but you like more like girl things. It doesn't mean I have to try to be like a man, right? I can be who I am and still be able to run a business and still respect men for what they are. And as a team, I think working together, we can create some tremendous things.
Okay.
Even if
Wait,
they have
time out.
pink eyebrows?
I'm sorry?
Even if they have pink eyebrows?
They're red.
Even if they're pink, red, whatever color, we can all work well together.
They are red. And I want to say, in my defense, Charles was the one who invaded my meeting space in the cafeteria of the IFA. It was all good, and because you were off meeting it, it was all good. You were off meeting important people, and he and I were in the cafeteria.
Yeah, not a problem, Fred.
Elizabeth, we're to you in Ray's question.
All right. Well, the problem is that I live in Alabama, and so I could tell you an hour's worth of stories off the top of my head, but a couple of that come to mind. I used to do Social Security disability, and I represented claimants who were trying to get disability. And there was a notorious judge who packed heat in the courtroom, which I found he was a little angry man who carried a gun. And he would wink at the women representatives. He called one little lady routinely and in front of your clients. So it was a very difficult thing because you could not react to it because he was the one making the decision on your case.
Yeah.
So the feeling of being diminished the minute you walk through the door when this guy winks at you and you're thinking, I don't really know how to take that. So that was a place where I felt like I could not respond in any way that I would want to. So I would just go in there and not let it intimidate me and argue my case as hard as I could and stand up. He was a bully. And if you pushed back, that's when he would wink at you like, good job, little lady, which was so condescending. So that was probably one of the more difficult ones because I really did feel like I was representing a client who needed survival and I could not tick this judge off. So that was hard. But on the other levels, I've been in meetings trying to stand up for my gay son in a school meeting, and the assistant superintendent called me in a meeting with the school principal, and they shut the door, and this guy who was probably 6'3" and 250 started bellowing at me, trying to intimidate me, because I'm sure he would never have spoken to a man that way. He certainly wouldn't have spoken to my husband that way. And trying to diffuse that, because in that case, I'm trying to protect my child. And so I just tried to talk from the heart and convince him that I wasn't there to antagonize. I was like, you know what? And it was public. So I said, you've got a problem. You've got a perception problem. The community has seen you this way. I can help you, because if you do the right thing, I will tell people. I will put it out there. Let's work together to change whatever this perception is and keep these kids safe. And when I finally got down to the fact that I just was there because I want my kid to feel safe and happy and protected, he backed off a little bit. But it was a little scary. It was one of those heart-wrenching things where you're just pounding in your chest and you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do with this? And he still walks the other way when I walk to a football game. But those situations, I mean, they affect how you can conduct your business. They affect how you feel. I mean, I was a little afraid of that guy bellowing behind a closed door with no witnesses except the principal, who wasn't going to protect me. But I think I always try to get to the common denominator. Like, nobody wants a child to feel unsafe. Nobody wants a person not to be able to eat if they can't get their disability benefits. If you can get to that base level that we can all agree on, then sometimes it's very, like, we don't want somebody to die. Sometimes you have to go that far down to make that forward progress. And so that's always how I try to come at it, even when I come home and drink wine and yell about it at my husband, like, But you save that for later, and you try really hard to find whatever that common thread is that's going to get you what you need.
I remember you telling that story the first time you were on a women in franchising story, and I thought then, and I still think now, that could make you an honorary South Chicagoan.
I'll take it.
It may take us a long, long time, but we will achieve equity.
Exactly. One little step at a time.
Amen. Michele.
Yeah, we were talking about teachers, good teachers, but bad teachers unfortunately happen too. And one of the first times I remember experiencing different treatment just because of my gender was I was in chemistry class, and I had a teacher that was very old school, and he clearly did not think that females were scientifically minded. And I was a good student, but chemistry was not my strongest. Science and math are not my strongest suit, but I still did all right. But he gave us a test, and lo and behold, I got the best score in all of his classes that one time. And he said to me, in front of everyone, he said to me, "Well, Michele, you got the best score, and kind of wondering if you cheated."
I knew you were going to say that.
I was just like, okay. And he was serious, but he tried to laugh it off, kind of, because I'm pretty sure he knew that was not a cool thing to say, but it was, it really stuck with me because, man, I was white hot that day. I was white hot. But hey, I was a kid. What am I going to say? He kind of, that I had been fortunate to be raised by, a dad who was very much, hey, you can do anything you want to do, kid. You're a girl. It doesn't matter. You do what you want. But I did find that as a female business owner, that I experienced some of the same things that Andrea was talking about, and Carolyn too, that kind of, a little bit suspect as far as, especially in tech, I'm a woman in tech, and just kind of like, can I talk to the man? And I've gotten that more than once. And that, I just think to myself, okay, just times are just keep changing, and you definitely in that type of situation probably can't change that particular person's perception, and they may not even really realize that that's how he's acting. So, but yeah, it happens. It will happen, and but it's changing, which is great.
What I'd like to do, Fred, is ask the next question and then go to a commercial so people have time to kind of think about it. Can we do that? I guess so, because he's muted.
Sorry. No. When we come back, we're going down the rabbit hole. And
Oh, you sure?
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
no one gets to know what's going on there. I will leave you with a favorite phrase of mine is artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. However, I do want to comment one thing on Michele said, or comment she made about what could she say. And what I can tell you is that A South Chicago thing is, when you can prove it, come back and talk to me.
Mm.
Saying that to a teacher when they say, I'm wondering if you cheated. It is what it is.
The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
All right, folks, it's my favorite time, the rabbit hole question. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I didn't, since this is a show about women, I didn't want to bring zombies in it or space aliens. So as I kind of, hey, you watch enough, that's one of my favorite topics. So I gave you a hint about artificial intelligence. So since we tend to talk a lot about male-female relationships, my question is how would you use artificial intelligence to improve men in business and in personal life?
Ooh.
Dee, dee, dee. God, I know I love these questions. This one, who would like to jump in first? We don't got to go alphabetical. Who would like to jump in first?
Can you repeat the question?
Buy us some time there, Andrea.
So, given that we talk about on this show a lot, male and female relationships in franchising or in business, how would you use artificial intelligence to improve men in both a business relationship as well as a personal relationship?
Oh, okay. That's easy. You would have a filter that would say in their mind, would you ask or say the same question or same comment to a male? If the answer is no, then you should not say it to a female.
That's good.
Usually, that's when it gets me in trouble, is when I know I would say it to a male and I still say it. I can tell.
Think so.
I can tell Ray his shirt looks ugly.
Well, you don't have to think about it because it's artificial intelligence. It's gonna filter it automatically for you.
Yeah. Carolyn is lost in thought.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You know, I've never thought about it for men in business. I always thought about it for what we do, right? Artificial intelligence for taking care of a senior. But, you know, it could be with the communication piece of, again, because sometimes when you're talking to, and this could be for a woman too, but I find sometimes the way that I think, the things that I'm putting out, they're not receiving it the same way. So it'd be great to be able to have something that helps them to truly decipher quickly what we're discussing. I think that would definitely help the communication piece.
I think we need to develop the Pillars of Franchising AI app for our Women-splaining co-host, because it seems like that's what I just heard. Elizabeth, bring it on.
All right, so mine involves a tiny bit of torture. When my three boys were little, and I would be at the beach to try to sit down and relax, and they were like, 4, 6, and 8, and they would get too far away, I dreamed of having this little thing where I could just zap them real quick and they would come running back, so that I didn't have to get out of the chair. So my thought is when they start to say these things that Andrea wants to filter and Carolyn wants to translate, I think they should just get a little zap, like, you know, Pavlovian response. Eventually they're going to stop saying it, right? So I think the zapping thing is what I would do.
So zapping dog collars for men.
Yeah, sort of like that. Yep. Something a little
All
less
right.
visible than a dog collar, but yeah.
Bring it on down, Michele.
I've actually seen, you know, a couple of, I think, YouTube videos along these lines where there's like a automatic translator that happens with men and women communicating. It's like that men are for Mars and women are for Venus. Whole idea. I appreciate what Carolyn said and about like an automatic translator kind of deal. And the torture device is, you know, it's
just a bonus.
It's reasonable. I mean, it's just a tiny bit, right? So it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. So I would have to. I would have to. I don't have any other ideas. Is what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to echo what you said. I think they're perfect.
Enlightening, very, very enlightening, ladies. Before Ray asks his next question, I do want to ask this. I know some of you got new stuff out, Elizabeth, and I think everybody does. So, give us a short what's happening in the next 30 days that you're pumped about. Whoever can jump in.
All right, well, I'll start. We've launched the Coterie for Women, which is a platform for women to empower, educate, and provide resources, networking, and support. We're giving away free subscriptions for a limited time, so go to thecoterieforwomen.com.
Anybody else? Do I have to call on you?
No, I'll go before you call on. So we are, of course, continuing to add new franchises on. We're here at the end of the last quarter, and still now is a great time to develop a senior care business, and we're just looking for like-minded people to join our team. We're currently doing a virtual, participating in a virtual franchise expo and having quite a few people interested. So we're excited to bring on at least 2 more new franchisees onto.
Yay.
I'll stop on by because I'm registered. Just been doing show stuff all day today.
Okay, stop by.
Andrea?
Yeah, I'm excited because we are going to be bringing on a couple new franchisees next week. So I'm excited about that. And what I'm also really excited about is today we rolled out internally to our franchise owners our holiday programming and plans. So I know it's early. We don't launch it until mid-November, but it's just really optimistic to be able to look a little bit further ahead and think about the holiday season. And, you know, we've had to make some changes to how we've done things in the past, but just was really well received. And I think just that optimism is really nice to see, given sort of the heaviness and challenges that we've all had to face as franchisees and franchisors and suppliers and, you know, sort of everyone involved in the industry. So just, you know, just sort of that bright light today, I think it's been really exciting.
Yes. Michele.
I'm involved in a side venture. I'm a part-time artwork or artisan or arts and crafters. I don't know. Anyway, I partner up with some other artists to do an online art show or virtual art show on Facebook, and it's next weekend. And it's in a group called Unveiling Beauty on Facebook. So if anybody wants to join us, there's several of us that are going to post throughout the weekend the stuff we've been working on. And of course, people can comment or share or buy, you know, so it's fun. It's called Unveiling Beauty on Facebook.
But he, otherwise known as Clayhead Fred, will not be for sale. He's too expensive. Now, Ray, take the last question.
Okay. The last question, of course, is always if someone wants to contact you regarding your franchises, how do they do that? And we can start with Andrea.
Yeah, so skoahfranchising.com is our website where there's all kinds of information, and there's a form fill on there if you want to sign up. And Donna, who handles all of our development, will give you a call. She's amazing and extremely passionate about the brand. And I'm just Andrea@skoah.com if you want to reach out directly.
Cameron?
Yes, you can reach Wisdom at wisdomseniorcare.com. And we have information there about our franchise opportunity. You can also email me at Carolyn@wisdomseniorcare.com. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. And we have some Facebook pages as well.
Elizabeth.
All right. If you go to thefranchisewoman.com, we have all the information on the magazine. There's an advertising tab, there's a podcasting tab, and there is a tab for the Coterie for Women. So you can find all that information there, or email me directly at elizabeth.denham@thefranchisewoman.com.
And Michele.
And my company is Westvyne, WESTBYNE.com. My email is Michele with one L, not Westvyne with a Y. .com. We provide marketing services for other companies, social media marketing, as well as website development and graphic design. So, and then also, like I said, have an art show next weekend, October 24 and 25 in the Unveiling Beauty by Art Is You group on Facebook.
Excellent. Fred, take it away.
Ray will take us away. This has been a enjoyable and fun and educating and entertaining. I think we hit it really right, Ray. Shout out to Kristin. Our hearts are with you. Remember, folks, thoughts and prayers are appreciated. We'll be back next week with, I don't think the show will be as exciting, but hopefully at least as fun. Until then, we are...
Pillars